I'm constantly flipping the coin of vehicle size. Is bigger better, or in some cases, should I scale back? This week reevaluates that whole mindset. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Robertson. Now behind me is the 2017 Fiat 500X, a crossover that definitely resizes my thinking and, well, scales me back just a little bit. I've had the opportunity to test drive every version of the Fiat. Well, that's not that exciting because there's only 4 models: the Spider, the 124, the 500, the, as mentioned here, 500X, and the 500L. Now, each one of those exponentially get a little bit bigger, the 500X being the crossover member in the family, and maybe the L being the bigger is better attitude in the Fiat lineup. Now, what we like with the X is kind of the blend of all the models, not too big, not too quirky, something you see more on the L model. And even for the standard 500, for my size, well, it just seems like more of a clownish vehicle when this big frame climbs outside. But what we have here at the X is we still have that Italian-esque qualities. The front end we've come to love, the doming profile, but the overall scalability of it is not necessarily the American way, but definitely more Italian-esque and, well, a little bit smaller. Besides design, one place you need to look at is the numbers. Can this vehicle truly measure up? Now, what you're going to see here is about a 101-inch wheelbase, overall length about 167 inches. Definitely fitting squarely in the compact market. Now, one number that came in a little bit bigger than we thought is the width, truly over 6 feet and creeping into about 80 inches if you include the mirrors. Now, one other number we truly liked is the overall height, easily creeping over 5 feet. That compared to your average sedan, which is truly going to be right at 5 feet or under. This one really gave me that cathedral-like feel. Part of that overall height is the ground clearance. This vehicle starting at about 7 inches for the standard front wheel drive like you see here. However, if you go to the all-wheel drive, that's going to give you about another inch of ground clearance, truly giving it that, well, off-road prowess and at least all-weather sport. The biggest difference you'll see between the 500 and the 500X is in the form of those second set of doors, really taking it from a cute and cuddly model with the 2-door coupe styling to a more refined sedan-like look you will see with the 4-door options. Even better, the X is, well, more accepting of your friends, allowing for ease of ingress through this versus the tuck and dive version you'll find on the standard 500. Now, what we like on any small vehicle is the minimizing of cheap accents in the form of chrome, and they've done that quite well here on the 500X, really minimizing with black accents all around the windows, even on the door pillars, with chrome only finding their home here on the door handles and the front and back. Now, let's dive a little bit closer at the ground clearance to see what this vehicle truly offers. As you get lower in this vehicle, this is when you start to notice the ground clearance. Now, this isn't anything shocking. A lot of SUVs, crossovers like this that are compact really at least give you some of that extra height. But compared to sedan, which in some cases 5 inches, these extra 2 inches really come into play really on snowy conditions. Now, I don't feel this vehicle is really off-road worthy. All-wheel drive will definitely take you there, but what it truly comes in is when you have snow, the mud, really giving that ground clearance is going to help you get through it. Now, what you'll notice, this is the front-wheel drive model, so this is 7 inches here. But as you go to the all-wheel drive, that's going to creep up close to 8 inches, even more height. What I like, though, is across the board, they do give you this nice rubber cladding down low. That's truly going to come into play with the all-wheel drive model because you're definitely going to sling more going down the road. Helps protect this body paint here. Now, as for the 4 corners, you're definitely going to want to equip it with some nice all-wheel drives. Now, standard size wheel is 16 inch. This is the Pop model, but it did step up here on this one, going with more of a 17 inch, which is standard when you go to the Trekking Edition. One thing we always talk about really is ingress into any vehicle. Now, the second set of doors is definitely going to help with that second row, but what also helps is proximity entry, the smart key systems, and this vehicle comes with. And even better, it's a little bit more intuitive than some other models we've tested. And where it starts is really with your hand. Now, there's no pressing of buttons. It basically means you slip your hand in here and the vehicle unlocks. Now, what I found is here on the passenger side, it's actually fairly easy. Basically, when you put it here, it unlocks every door. Now, as for the driver, one thing I did notice is when you do this here, it really only unlocks the driver. Basically, at that point, you then need to open it, unlock it with the button. Now, that's a nice safety and security feature because if you're by yourself, you really only want that door. Now, I'm sure there might be some settings where you can change certain functions, but basically it's a little bit different on that side. Now, one other security feature I always talk about really is the fill up area, and well, there's no reason to waste our time because there is no security here. It pretty much pops open anytime you want it. Now, one nice feature is the fact that it is capless, making it one less step when you fill up in this area. Now, lastly is the business end of this vehicle. After all, it does offer this fifth door back here in the form of this nice full-size hatch, allowing to give you some cargo room. Now, as for design, real quick, body color all the way around. Nice, a little bit of sport here with the rear spoiler, extending that roof line out just a little bit. Modest offering when it comes to the rear glass. Now, the chrome we talked about earlier, you're going to find it back here in the form of this nice little accent, but pretty much body color all the way around. What I also like is there is a backup camera. Now, even on this small vehicle, blind spots can come in the form of this small window, these rear pillars, so it doesn't hurt to add this, just a feature that a lot of vehicles are coming with. Now, when it comes to cargo space, what you're going to find is a modest offering, basically around about 12 cubic feet with the back seats up. Now, what you'll notice is it's very cavernous down here, really allowing it to go a little bit lower than the standard height you would expect. Now, with all the seating laid flat, it's going to creep up to around about 20 cubic feet. Diving into the cargo area just a little bit more, one thing you'll notice is when the seat backs are laid flat, there is no real seamless flat floor at all. And well, it's not really that big a deal, but you'll notice that the seat backs here do angle just a hair. So that means if you have smaller items, they will inevitably slide back and end up in this area. But truly, when you lay these flat, that's for bigger items that maybe don't have that slidability factor. So this is really not that big a deal. What I like though is the fact that when you lay these down, there's no need to pull out the headrest. There's actually plenty of room back here. And even with my 6-foot+ frame, even the seat backs here didn't really impose. Now, one thing I truly like is the ability to design this cargo however you want with this nice split back here. Now, when you put these up, one thing to note is you do have to pull these seat belts out of the way to clip them in. Otherwise, these are going to be locked in the clip. Now, what you'll notice is when these are in this design, you can transform this into different fashions, person here, cargo, whatever. Now, to fold these down, you will notice the handle is right up here. It is in kind of a niche, takes just a hair to get used to, but real easy. Pull the handle, this tumbles forward. I always like to see what lies beneath the cargo floor. In this case, no full-size spare, but actually the sound system, a fill-up pump here if you have a low tire pressure, some little niches for screwdrivers and such. Now, it appears that this can be fitted for a full-size spare because it truly is a nice little niche here. But in this case, really just a fill-up area and, well, a nice little sound system. Now, there's three models for the 500X, the Pop, the Trekking, or the Lounge. Now, the Pop is the only one that comes with the standard turbocharged engine, and you can upgrade any Pop model with the bigger power plant. Now, what you're looking at is the standard engine is a 1.4 liter turbocharged multi-air inline four cylinder. Now, what does that basically mean? It delivers about 160 horses and 184 foot-pounds of torque. Now, the standard engine, both for the Trekking and the Lounge, is what we test drove here, which was the upgrade for the Pop. Now, that was a 2.4 liter multi-air Tiger Shark edition. Now, it's going to deliver around about 180 horses, but only 175 foot-pounds of torque. Now, both engines are coupled to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and basically what we found is fuel economy is one big feature, averaging 25 to 34 miles per gallon, give or take, on either engine. Now, climbing into the driver's seat, one thing you'll notice is the overall comfort. First, starting with the overall seat. Now, it's nice and bolstered, not too tight on the sides. Now, we've driven other vehicles like the Nissan Juke that really had a lot of bolsterings and really was just too tight and rigid. This one feeling fairly comfortable, even better, really oversized headrest. What I also like is elbow placement. Now, on the right side, it's perfectly placed with the center console, maybe a little too small for sharing. Now, as for this side, now what you'll notice is that it's really too much of an arm stretch to get your arm over there, but naturally it just kind of finds a nice resting spot overall. As for the steering wheel, nice and telescoping steering wheel, really comes out and gives you a lot of extension or recesses back depending on how you're going to maneuver your seat. Looking at legroom numbers now, for my 6-foot+ frame, I found plenty of legroom, around about 41 inches, really allowed me to stretch out with ease, no bending of the knees necessary. Now, as for the backseat drivers, that's going to be around about 34 inches, not too bad, on the verge of knee scraping fun, but we'll look at that in just a second. For convenience, you're going to find a nice push start. That's going to relate to the good old smart key system we had earlier. Now, once it cranks up, you'll basically find that you'll spend a lot of your time right here front and center on the dash. Now, what you'll notice is it is a fairly small screen compared to other models, but they do simplify it in a sense where there's not a lot going on, so you really don't need it to be much bigger. Now, what I would truly like is for all this area that you see here to really be replaced with something a lot more substantial, because when you do put it in reverse, what you will notice is the screen is again fairly small, but well, just enough really view to give you that nice backup look. Now, as you look for the entertainment, what you'll see is a nice touchscreen system, really allow you to navigate with these, and symmetric knobs for volume and tune select. And if you do have to find other functionalities, the shortcuts are down here. The gauge cluster has a retro-like feel, but it's definitely not old school at all. Now, what you'll find is a standard analog tach and speedometer with the speed on the left and tach on the right. But what you're truly going to love is right there front and center. Huge display for the speed. Now, that display is actually bigger than your entertainment screen. Now, what I like is you can navigate that with ease with a lot of different information, really scrolling through, giving you other views, basically keeping you less distracted, allowing you to dart down real quick and dart back up. But the biggest thing where I kept it was right there, giving you a digital readout for your speed. To change that information on the gauge cluster, that's all found right here on the steering wheel controls, basically up and down to change the selection and different sub menus to the left and right. Now, what you'll find below is the shortcuts for the telephone. On the right side is cruise control and some functionalities that, well, this model didn't come with. Now, over here on the left side is the knob for the headlight. Now, it does sound simple, but what I prefer here is actually an A for auto, because I did leave this in the on position all the time, and well, I never drained the battery, which pretty much means this car is going to turn them off at some point. So, well, listing that out wouldn't hurt. The interior design is going to feature a dark accent with the body color match here on the dash. Now, down low, what you will find is the climate controls. Nice, simple layout. Huge symmetric knobs, all for different functions. The fan speed, temperature, and mode select. And I like the fact that it's nice and simple and pretty much all housed in those three functions. Connectivity is crucial for any vehicle these days, and they do it in the form of a USB connection, auxiliary jack, and a power supply down low. Even better, a nice lower storage so you can put your devices while they charge or even when they connect. Now, for the bigger engine, it will come standard with the 9-speed automatic transmission. For the smaller one, this will be a 6-speed manual. Now, this automatic does have a manual-like mode. Shift it down, pop it over, shift up to downshift, and shift down to upshift. Seems a little bit of reverse, but whatever. Now, if you do go with the standard engine, that will be a 6-speed manual. And one thing to note for this manual-like version, well, there is no paddle shifters on the steering wheel, so you will have to refer to the gear shifter alone. I don't look for aggravations, but sometimes aggravations find me, in this case in the form of this electronic emergency brake found between the front occupants. Now, this is simply a push on, push off type of system, but the problem is it automatically sets every time you turn the vehicle off. Now, that can be somewhat cumbersome, especially if you're not used to setting emergency brake, especially with an automatic and especially on flat land. So basically, this function basically needs to be set by the driver, not by the vehicle. Backseat drivers are going to find decent comfort in this bench styling back here. No individualized attention, really just straight bench. And what you'll notice is really no hump here for the middle passenger, but it will be a little bit tight to put a full-size adult here. You'll also notice there is no room for a center console. Now, as for legroom numbers, my seat back again is accommodating my 6-foot+ frame in the front. So what you'll notice is legroom is a little bit snug here at 34 inches. But again, for any seats that do slide forward, this will definitely give you a little bit more breathing room. So what you'll end up doing is, well, it's just spreading out just a little bit. Now, judge for this edition of Road Warrior in our test drive behind the wheel of the 2017 Fiat 500X, the more sophisticated, well, grown-up version to the 500. After all, delivering those extra 2 doors, a little bit more ease of ingress. And I like the fact that, well, it's a well-rounded vehicle that's maybe far from cute and cuddly that we see on the 500, and just, well, a hair more refined. Now, again, you'll have to resize your American way of thinking, go the Italian-esque way that, well, sometimes smaller is bigger. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.